Hey guys, welcome back to another Color Plane podcast episode. Today we had a very special guest on the Color Plane podcast. His name is Fraser. He is a prolific real estate agent here in Melbourne, probably one of the best dressed real estate agents going around as well. He was just recently on Survivor Australia. He's a man of many talents. We had an amazing chat with Fraser. Just quickly, as a disclaimer, we unfortunately ran into some technical difficulties and our audio file on the microphones corrupted. So we do have the camera audio. So if you notice a little difference in audio compared to other episodes, that's the reason why. So apologies for that, but this was just too good of an episode not to release. So yeah, thank you guys and enjoy.
Fraser, welcome.
Thank you. I'm blessed to be here, honestly.
Blessed to have you, man.
It's really good to get the call up, and
Of course.
it's something that I was very excited to do.
Man, I mean, it's been a minute since we've been on the phone. We grew up together.
Yeah.
Which is, I love reflecting back on. I think you and I going to start with the Casio watches, did it not?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's funny, like a lot of people message me like, hey, let's do something together. Let's let's do a podcast, whatever. And then it kind of just like fizzles and nothing. Whereas with you guys, it's like, hey, let's do a podcast. Cool. Monday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like this week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, all right, cool. I love that intensity.
Yeah, we definitely tried to lock you down. We knew you were a busy man. So let's just give him 2 days.
Yeah. The worst 2 days of my week. Like Monday morning and Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you making the time.
Appreciate you making the time, man. Coming in.
I know how you work, Fraser. The Casio watches. I've seen you wheeling and dealing for a long time.
Yeah, so what's the story there? I think that's a good place to start. Give the audience a bit of a background.
I'll kick it off and then Fraser can add lib.
Cool.
But I think essentially we would buy like a bunch of fake Chinese Casio watches.
Yeah. I won't say fake. we would buy Casio watches for cheap. And you make of that as what you do.
Okay.
Right?
Why I'm losing my shit on this is like, that's exactly our front when we were like, we'll never say these are fake. Like, we just...
People ask you point blank and you go, look, we just have a really good supplier.
Yeah.
We're able to navigate the tax exemptions of different countries and import.
How are these?
You guys are like 12.
Yeah. Like, how are these $15? We're like, look.
Yeah.
Oh man. And this, I mean, it was so bitter and twisted. We used to we bought silver and gold, and the gold would wash off into silver.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just buy silver, because like the silver would stay the realest for the longest.
Yeah.
Anywho, but we bought and sold those together along with some other mates. So
it was a long time ago,
and really long time ago.
It's funny to think it was probably circa year 9.
Probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, about year 9 in high school. We never went to school together, but we had a really close mutual friend and that sort of connect. And I think it was more of a drive of just, we want to do something and there's a way to make money. And this was the time of like Melbourne buy, sell, trade, a lot of vintage shopping and then reselling. And it was kind of finding a market that was untapped.
Before, I'm not sure if Depop was around, but it was like that.
No, it was that, but Facebook Marketplace.
Correct.
Essentially, yeah.
Meeting up at train stations.
Legit, like passing by like trains in the night, running through South Valley. Like, oh yeah, I've got 2 meetups now.
Yeah.
I've got to go out to Craigieburn. but I've convinced him to buy 3.
It's like 3 Casios. Yeah.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
100%. On like a real serious note, Fraser, do you feel like those times like making a bit of money, like profiting, how do you feel that translated into like where you are now a little bit? Because that was like the foundation of buying and selling for you.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. And people ask me, what's the root of where I am now or how has it progressed? And I don't have a simple answer. I've always been ambitious. I've always wanted to make money. And it's funny, like I was thinking about it the other day, and I hate the word manifestation. I feel like it's thrashed, especially in podcasts.
Agreed.
Just like the word value, right, Jesse?
Yeah. I've been listening.
But like I literally, like when I was a kid, I used to sit down and draw floor plans of houses that I would want to buy.
Wow.
Like I would spend hours just drawing houses that I would want to one day live in. I would write stories about the type of person that I would want to become. And I guess that is a form of that, right? It's like really setting a pretty clear vision of who you want to be. And it was very unrealistic. It's like, I want to have this by 20, and it's like, that's not how the world works. But it all came back to me that I was very driven from a young age. I always had a job, always.
Yeah, you did.
And it was just a way to make extra money, and there was excitement around the hustle of it, and I think that's carried on through everything.
I love the way you concluded that, because I think that's exactly how I felt. Although we were making, $50 on a Casio watch per week, like maybe covering our lunch and the market ticket, whether we tapped on or not, it's another story. But I think that for me is the energy of like the thrill, the excitement of like, oh my God, I just made $50 profit off my idea.
Yeah.
And then you scale that to now, and it's you flipping houses, us we flip clothing.
Yeah.
But it was all from that foundation of that energy.
100%. The commodities changed. But the hustle hasn't.
There you go.
But everything was also cheaper then. Like we spent less, so $50 went a lot further, right? We're buying chicken schnitzels across from Flinders Street for $5. You know what I mean? It's like, and it was probably the worst thing for us. Shaved years of our lives off.
We'll hate ourselves in 5 years. Yeah.
Toxic food. But there was always an edge. There was always an angle. It's like taking McDonald's into the movies and doing things like, and instead of buying a sundae, you get soft serve in a lid with topping, and that was only $1 instead of $4. There was always this kind of momentum.
Where do you think that energy came from for you?
Honestly, like I think when I was really early on in my life, I was never athletic and I was never very academic either. So I was kind of this underdog that no one really, I was just fun to have around. Like that was what I brought to the table.
True.
That was my presence.
In the best possible way. Yeah.
I think, without, big upping myself too much. But, I never really had a sport that I excelled in. I was small physically, so it's not like I could really compete in basketball, football or anything, and I really did solo sports. I played tennis, and not really excelling academically. It's not that people didn't expect much of me, but it was not something that was voiced, but they didn't. And I think very early on, that kind of gave me a lot of drive to really want to excel in something. And business, and for the most part, seriously, just money really excited me, and I wanted that to be the way that I could excel, and as soon as I found something that I was good at, and I was good at working hard, when I set my mind to something, that just revolved around work, and then, funneled into other things of life, like running.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I remember that switch in you, and it's very common throughout sort of adolescence that people change, but I remember for you that you were very happy-go-lucky in a way. Even throughout uni, I remember I'd speak to you and my degree's up and down, this and that. And you were looking at life, but I remember I feel like a switch was just clicked, and you're I'm going full head down, running, pretty much entrepreneurship. Yeah. Or more so with the real estate and. Yeah, it was cool to see that switch in you.
Yeah, I think it was just at a certain point I wanted to prove something, not only to myself but also to other people, that I did bring something to the table, that I was almost special in a certain way. And I got into running sort of in year 10, so really not athletic at all. Started on a treadmill, and I think that's what a lot of people forget. They just don't start. Starting is the hardest thing.
Correct.
And I was on a treadmill for 3 months at home, had a really shit treadmill that my mum bought, and no one knew about it. No, I didn't publicise it, I didn't promote it, I didn't say, hey, I'm running this sort of distance, until you pull up at cross-country athletics, and then people are like, fuck, Fraser came 7th. Yeah. How the hell did that happen? Against the athletic kids who didn't even try. Right. They never trained, right? They were just... sort of epic at sport, naturally gifted, so then by getting that taste of almost success in something, kind of was like, shit, you really apply yourself and you really put your everything into something, it will pay off.
It's funny how you gravitate towards those things that you are good at when you're young, and when you just come across that little bit of success or achievement, and you're like, wow, this feels so amazing, and 100%. You just double down on it.
As soon as you get that one sort of taste for it, and you go, shit, You know, I can really do something here and I can create something for myself.
Has that been a similar story with the real estate, with where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting journey for me. I never saw myself getting into real estate. You know, I even like at uni, like I did uni just because I thought that was the natural progression of things, that was what was expected, and that you were a failure if you didn't go to uni.
Social conditioning 101, hey?
Honestly,
exact
you
same.
know, and it was coming out of high school and knowing all my friends were going to uni and they were all so certain about their destiny almost. They were like, 100%, I'm going to go do, become a physio, I'm going to go study psychology, whatever it is. I had no clue, you know. I knew that I was interested in business and marketing, and so I was like, all right, cool, that's probably my best shot. And I did it just to do it. And I did it and I half-assed it. I would rock up to exams purposely late so that I didn't have to sit through the reading time, and I would just go in and I would finish before the last 15 minutes so I could leave, and I didn't have to sit there and wait. So I would do enough to get 50% and pass, and then bail. I would do part-time study. I would do 2 subjects instead of 4, and I would just work full-time. And I did it just to do it because I thought that was what was expected.
Yeah, like you couldn't go into a conversation with a friend or a family member and not say you're at uni.
Yeah,
right.
And they would like, how are you doing with your study?
Yeah.
You know, and my family is quite regimented and strict, and they're the classic traditional family. You know, they've all studied, they've all followed a very anticipated path, a very sort of standard trajectory. You have one sort of career and you stick with it, you know, and that for me was a big break against the mold. But I was like this just doesn't interest me. And it was, I studied for about a year and a half, or I did about 1.5 years of my degree in Bachelor of Business Marketing at RMIT, and I just said, I can do it for another year and a half, but what am I going to get from it at the end of the day? Like, there's power in quitting and understanding when it doesn't serve you, you know? And I was in a place where I was like, I'm putting so much more time and energy into my work that, and I wasn't even happy with my work, but I'm like, I'm not happy with either. And understanding that and being really self-aware.
Powerful, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously a very...
Expensive cost.
Expensive.
And that's the thing that's not taught at school, is how expensive it is to study something you're not passionate about, you know? And even prior to that, I studied fashion design for 6 months and absolutely hated it, you know, and that was like 10,000 a semester. Yeah. Like, it was ridiculous, right? You know, so I went up with like a hex set of probably 35K, and I've paid it off, and I'm happy that that's settled, and I'm at peace with that. Like, that's part of the journey. Yeah. You know?
It's funny you say that. I mean, you really start to understand that school, like high school and university of businesses, right? Because they're not telling us they want you to go and fail a unit that you have to resit and pay double. Like, that's great for them, you know what I mean? And it's kind of tragic.
You forget to defer, so you're locked in.
Like, hey, bro, like, you're paying up.
You miss the date, you know? And when you go and meet your career counsellor at high school and you have like 2 sessions in year 12, it's not something that even comes up. It's not a consideration. No. It is, this is what your test shows that you should be good at. You know, and one of them is the army. You're like, oh, great.
Yeah. Guess I'm going to the army. I've always been baffled by that, how you can have 2 conversations with this person, you know, just 1 year, that last year of school, and all of a sudden they're dictating what you do for the next 4 years, potentially a lifetime.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And to them, you're just a number on a spreadsheet. Like, they're not doing any prep work before you walk in or when you leave. Like, they got someone else coming in for a 10-minute meeting.
You're a student that they need to address, right? They like the next one on the list, you know. So I kind of fumbled around for a little while. I was always working full time in retail for years, between sneakers and then into high-end men's tailoring, because that was something that I was really passionate about.
Is that Harold's for a minute?
No, I worked at Ermenegildo Zegna on Collins Street, and I do high-end men's tailoring. So they're a beautiful Italian brand. They're really well known across the world. They provide actually a lot of resources, fabric materials, wool to a lot of the main other labels like Tom Ford, Armani, etc. So they're a massive backbone to the industry. Fashion is at large. I worked there and I just realised, like, I thought that this was maybe my avenue. Maybe I could just excel in the corporate sort of side of fashion. But I realized very quickly that a lot of people I was working with were so unhappy, incredibly unhappy.
Wow.
And you would have to wait for someone to die so you could move up the ladder. And, you know, that was not a game I was willing to play.
Absolutely.
The lack of control of your own sort of path and trajectory. And I was like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. And I'm really fortunate that I left that, you know, and got out of this space that I felt was really toxic. A lot of people that were just 9 to 5 working to live, living to work, essentially, you know. And I was like, what do I do next? And I've always been sort of in and out of the family business, which is real estate. And that led to my next steps in, just jumping in.
Crazy. And not to leap forward too far ahead here, Fraser, but I'm too fascinated not to ask.
Yeah, tell me.
You're such an ambitious person, right?
Yeah.
And you've dived in, you've absolutely torn to shreds the whole real estate industry. I feel like you've flipped it on its head.
Yeah.
You know, I think half the reason the younger generation speak about it would be because of you. You know, you've brought it to the light. And
Thank you.
Absolutely. But I'm really fascinated. Like, where to from here? You know, like you've got to where you are so fast. Like you've got on reality TV shows. Yeah. You're on my bloody Channel 10 when I turn it on. Like you've catapulted. But it's like literally where to from here?
If and to be completely honest, don't know. You know, like so much has changed for me in the matter of 6 months that I would not have expected. You know, so I'm also just open-minded and open to opportunity. I'd love to be more involved in television and media. That's something I'd be super excited, you know, to jump into. But it's not an expectation, like you know. I'm still definitely going to be very, very much involved. Like real estate is my main business at the end of the day. I love doing other things, and you'll see pretty much, you almost won't see real estate on my socials. That's not just me. I don't live and die by this next listing or this next sale.
Absolutely.
There's so much more to me, and there's so much more to my life that I want to enjoy. But it is definitely, that is my main business. And that'll stay my main business for probably the next few years.
From like a financial lens, like you know, you mentioned before, it was like money, like let's get it.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done it. You know, or like you're well on your way to that goal. Yeah. Is that a never-ending goal, or are you content?
It's interesting. I mean, I would be lying to say I haven't been motivated by money for a big proportion of my life. And it's always been, I've always had financial goals. Absolutely always. And then probably at the middle of last year, I realised that I really wasn't happy, and that something needed to change. And I think that was progressed through the extremity of lockdowns, and all I did was work, and also the lack of control in that environment, you know, where I'm working so much more than I would with much less sort of event or output from it, you know. Right. And I realised something needed to change, and that balance was not there. And that there was no longevity in the way that I was treating my work and my pursuit of finance.
How would you say your values have shifted to now?
It's a hard one to answer, but I'm much more focused on doing things that make me happy, you know, and that's probably the best way I can answer it. And there's so many things that do that, you know, but spending time with really great friends and family that I absolutely love, you know, and going and doing fun things and travel and things that excite me and make life fun. That's one of the main things. And I think if you do that and you really fill your cup, then that'll pour out into everything else you do. And that energy and that excitement to life is, it's a natural overflow, and people will see that. It's emotive, it's infectious, right? And I think that's something that people, if you interviewed any of my last 10 clients who have sold or bought through me, that's probably the key reason they did choose me at the end of the day in such a competitive marketplace, is the energy that I bring, which is fueled by all of the fun that I have in my life.
Overflows, right?
Yeah.
Remember we had a discussion recently about doing the small things correctly over and over.
100%. It's the basics.
You know, put that lid back on the toothpaste, and like just those tiny minuscule things that you think no one's watching. But I'm bringing this up because I think personal belief of mine is I think it overflows.
Mm.
You know, it's funny having that big meeting with like a potential client and you want to close it, but it's the little things you've done over and over that creep out into your habits, behaviors, words. And so it's like people think that, you know, a lot of people aren't watching all of their habits and behaviors, but they're the things that sorry to use the word phrase, manifest out.
100% though, but you know, like those are the things that people will notice subconsciously and will very much influence their decision making without them knowing it. You know, like I'll have a lot of clients who will follow me online. They'll be like, wow, Fraser just did half an hour on a Sunday just for fun, out doing this, going to this restaurant. He's just loving life. And that's the same sort of approach and intensity he's going to bring to this transaction for my most valuable asset, you know, and comparatively to the person who looks at it like a job and it's laborious and it's just the next one. Whereas for me, it's so much more important and it's so much more valuable that I know that every independent transaction and sale will build my career and lead me to the next. So I give them so much single-minded focus that it's just invaluuble.
I love it.
I love that. I think we strike so many similarities just with you speaking with me and Jess, our value set, you know, thinking long, doing the small things. I love it. I think it's the way to live.
Yeah.
I say it a lot, but kind of a way that I guess personally I've been really trying to live the last couple of years is live for experiences.
Yeah.
Rather
100%.
than anything else. And that idea of like building your life resume.
Yeah.
Rather than your working resume or your career.
Yeah.
I just think too many people go through life and, you know, blink and wake up and they've just worked for 20 years doing something they you know, probably isn't really serving them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's an interesting one. Like my mum got a dog a few years ago and we never grew up with pets in my household. And that was a really good sort of something I noticed about a year ago where I was, you know, such a happy life with the most simple pleasures and really understanding that from a dog's perspective that less is more and, you know, really enjoy the small things. Like absolutely happy as Larry going out for a walk. Like that's made their day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a great meal, you know, like a pat. Like those sort of really simple pleasures and really taking that into your own life and going, a great coffee. Love that.
Yeah.
What a win. What a great start to my day. You know, and it doesn't have to be everything is on such big items and big tasks like going to Vietnam or going to Europe. You really got to love the process and love every part of it.
Well said. And I think directly off the back of that, our phones are acting as a massive barrier, a massive barrier to that access of happiness. In a sense, I think phones fragment the process. So if you're going for your morning walk or you're buying your morning coffee and you're on your phone as you're ordering, you're on your phone as you're on the walk and you're staring down, you're not looking at the people smiling at you, you're not looking at the beautiful dog that's walked past. So it's something I've become very aware of that I just feel like for my life to flow at its best, I need to become more aware of my surroundings.
Yeah. And look, this is just something that I've been fine-tuning and getting better at, and I'm nowhere near good to I don't have a perfect life by any means, but, you know, it's a constant work in progress and understanding and being really self-aware, you know.
How have you navigated that social media space, being on your phone? Obviously, you've built this kind of big personal brand around social media, so you have to spend a lot of time on it.
A few DMs would fly through their face.
Yeah, and, you know, going back to what you said, like, about sort of publicising real estate as an industry, especially for young people, and kind of pioneering it or empowering it. It is really beautiful to see. I do get quite a few messages. I got one this morning from someone saying, hey, I'm in my final year of school. I'm planning to finish and then go and get my agent's license and start a career in real estate, you know, and asking for advice and tips, you know, and hopefully people will see obviously the 10% or even the 5% of what I do, and which all looks fabulous and brilliant and fun and exciting. But I like that it's kind of changing the face of real estate, which is old, quite archaic, conservative, and keeping it fun and bright, vibrant and interesting and joyful, you know. Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
Around just like navigate, like, do you have limits that you put on yourself in terms of like phone time? How do you navigate that?
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely need to be better at this. It's something that I'm focused on. You know, I've gone in and out of when you put your phone away at night, charge it in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know, not next to your bed, and trying to take all tech away from the bedroom. Stuff like that I've tried to do, and I've slowly creeps back in. Not going on your phone or on your iPad in bed. You know, those, but it just creeps back in naturally. The big one that I've done is not looking at emails after work hours. That's massive for me. Not like, because I'm quite an emotional person, and I can really ride these highs and lows very quickly in my job, that the last thing you want to do is be so attached to that. And you could get an email saying, Fraser decided not to sell our property through you, we've listed it with another agency. Immediate low. You know, imagine getting that on a Friday night when you had a friend's birthday. You know? And you immediately you're like flattened by it. So kind of trying to detach from that as much as possible. It's still important to be vulnerable, but just set boundaries where possible. I'm always on my phone, like, and I'm always going to be. I don't know if there is a balance with that, or you should say I should only be on my phone 4 hours a day, whatever. Like, I don't even worry about checking my screen time because it's unhealthy. But it's I think in the new age, in this world that we're in now, you have to have a footprint. You have to have a place for yourself online, and you cannot build a brand without that.
Very difficult.
So if you try to disengage and say I'm only going to do it a couple of hours, well, you're not really in it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And I think, we're becoming more and more sort of intimate and fast paced with our communication. If that kid sends you off, I'm about to leave school and go get my license, it's like he wants a response quick, you know, and just how it is. And how do you deal with, like, out in public? I feel, you know, you've built, especially, you know, just coming off the back of Survivor, you know, you got a big smile on your face, like, that must be a pretty positive feeling. I think coming into the community, what are those interactions like?
Look, it's interesting. It hasn't changed dramatically. There's definitely a new audience that I've reached through Survivor who might not be very prevalent on Instagram. And that's, I don't use Facebook. I don't use TikTok. Instagram is sort of my thing, right? My following hasn't really changed dramatically. It's probably gone up a little bit, but most of my audience, so to speak, was from pre-Survivor. But there's definitely a few nods and, hey, how a Survivor in the street when I'm, you know, just out and about, which is lovely, you know, and there's a lot of recognition and support and sort of excitement around it, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But most of the people that, you know of me and say, hey, Fraser, give me a little be well on the street, or ask for a photo. That's all from pre-Survivor.
Cool.
You know, just from sort of the following that I've built.
There's something you've done, and the Be Well's really triggered me on this in the best possible way. I remember it's about a year ago now, I think, when Certified Lover Boy came out, and you made the postcards. I'd love for you just to quickly retell that story and kind of the little FU you gave to some people. The financial FU you gave.
Look, it was funny. But look, and what's interesting, people see the posts that I make now, which are, you got to understand if you're listening to this, that it is very put together. Like, it is not one take. I don't just do it and it looks perfect every time. That is what I portray to the world, and that is what every single content creator does. But if I'm being completely honest, there's a lot of thought behind it, and it's very planned and prepared in terms of how you present yourself to the world. But I've been doing that for a really long time, and it just, at one point in time, it took off. If I looked at videos of where I used to do little speeches and monologues to camera, I looked like a fucking baby. Yeah. I was so young. Yeah. I call it PB, pre-beard. Yeah. Right? Like, I look like a child, you know, and I was doing this for so long with no real response. I had maybe 900 followers of your mates of mates from high school, you know. And then at just some point...
The guy that bought the Casio watches.
All those people, you know what I mean? All the people that are still like, hey, the watch still doesn't work.
yeah.
When am I going to get my replacement?
After I sell this next house, I will get that refund.
But like, you know, I was always interested in doing that, and it was something that I loved being inspired. So I wanted to inspire and motivate people. So I was posting little captions and posts that I would see that I would find really interesting and uplifting. And there was just a moment where nothing, and then click, and a page came out which I was the poster boy for. I think I can say that. I was the first post on the page, which was essentially a page built with the intention, from my understanding, to mock, imitate, make fun of real estate agents. Rightly so, looking at some of them. But
those ones in Queensland are it's different out there.
different air, different water.
Yeah.
You know, but look, immediately I was like, haha, funny. And there was like 500 followers, and then it just skyrocketed and it took off. But where it felt really hurtful and quite attacking was how planned and prepared this was. There were posts that I'd made on my story like a year earlier,
right,
which they're there for 24 hours. So someone had to screenshot it or save it or screen record it at the time and bank this sort of like attack on phrase.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
For such a long time, you know, and whether or not it was just tongue in cheek or what have you, I don't know. No idea who runs the page, etc. It just skyrocketed in sort of fandom, and you know, now the page has, I don't know, 60, 70 odd thousand followers. But the positive that came from that is when I came out the other end of that pretty toxic journey for me in terms of how I felt about being publicly perceived, was this amazing community and support of people that, you know, a lot of people would take the piss and be like, yeah, look at this joker, look at this clown. But then a lot of people would be like, actually love what you're talking about, love everything that you have to say, and love the energy and just fun attitude that you have towards life.
For sure.
You know, and that's built a small following, but very engaged following.
I can imagine.
And then look, going back to your question, it led to the point where, look, they were, you know, the page was creating merch off the back of, you know, my taglines, you might say.
Still on that one. Like, it's my intellectual property one.
Yeah, but, you know, like, that's a big, you know, where do you even start, right? With that, you know, we don't even know who runs the page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was just an opportunity, and I was thinking about it for a long time. Do I make t-shirts?
Yeah.
Maybe. That's the space. But what can I do? How can I monetize the following that I've got and really make something out of it? And also kind of pod back. And, you know, I was chatting about it with a couple of my really close friends, and we came up with the idea, maybe we should do greeting cards. Because one, very low cost base in terms of production. Okay. Cost per unit was incredibly low.
Yeah.
Amazing margins, right?
Talking about real estate.
It's Casio watches.
And you
sounds like something
falls.
and you can pump volume, honestly, you know. And so on three different aspects, you could really kill it. And so it was very planned and you know, really well put together. And it wasn't just about making money. I wanted to put together a really great product as well. Like, it had to be 350 GSM, incredibly well printed, well designed. The product photos had to be on point. The Shopify site had to be clean, seamless, easy. The order to shipping timeline had to be swift. I wanted it to be the service you'd expect from any other name brand that you would engage with in the market.
Sure.
Regardless of what it is, what the product is. Which is very different to how the other page was putting out their product. And I was essentially like, no lie, I screenshotted the posts that they were making of me and then put them on a greeting card and sold it, you know. So it was literally monetizing that kind of
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
a big
crazy.
Yeah. But it was, you know, it was incredibly well received, and there's a lot of learning in that. Like, I was like, cool, I'll just like, who knows? Like, what am I doing? Don't know. Fucking go for it, you know? And we did like the first run. I thought, look, I'll just put a handwritten option, $50. No one's going to buy it, you know? And then it ended up being like the worst thing I could ever do because they were all handwritten, like handwritten. Shopify was just going nuts. Handwritten. And I was like, oh my God, it took forever to hand.
How many did you sell?
I don't know the exact numbers. It was a lot. It was hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds of green cards.
That's crazy. Just sitting there.
We had 3 different options. So there was the Lack Pack, which was three cards. And then there was...
Lack Pack.
There was Certified Lover Boy and Certified Leverage Boy, sorry.
Yeah.
And then there was something else, I can't remember. It's still on my Shopify. You'll find it. They're all sold out. You can't buy them.
Yeah. The one time.
But the exclusivity was a really interesting thing to play with as well when creating a product and not making it available.
Yeah,
you know, handling that sort of supply side to create hype.
Yeah, you killed it. I think ambition's like a real key part of your story to this point of your life. You know, I know you haven't really mentioned, but you've been on some incredible trips to Thailand over the years. And I'm not sure how much people do know, but I've heard, you know, you go there for a handful of weeks, you're training, you know, round the clock.
It's not something I haven't spoken about it. Yeah. Pre-COVID, and I can't wait to go back, and you guys have to come on a trip because it's fucking amazing. But yeah, I used to. Yeah, it's interesting, sort of looking back and reflecting on how sort of my life has changed and progressed over years. But some things have stayed the same, and again, ambition and drive and sort of discipline to really go all in on things that I'm really passionate about. And fitness and health and running is a really big interest of mine. I absolutely love it. Cannot ever see myself not exercising, ever. And don't understand people who don't.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I will never, ever see myself as someone who doesn't do some form of exercise.
Do you think exercise and business have a strong link?
Yeah. But exercise and success. I don't know so much business. There's a lot of people in business who are pretty unfit as well. True. And I think, you know, if you're unfit in life, you might have an unfit business, you know, and I think there's a lot of correlations there. But yeah, pre-COVID, a friend put me onto these crazy training camps in Phuket in Thailand, and he kept telling me about it for years, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just go, I'll just go. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll just
solo.
Go solo, 3 weeks. Yeah. Let's see what happens. No idea where I was going. I think I was
you were young.
20?
Yeah.
21, 20? Yeah.
Are you still pretty small? Like at 20?
Oh, yeah. Like I'm 5'7", like I'm light, and I was just like, cool, don't know what I'm doing, let's do it. And flew over and had an incredible 3 weeks, like one of the best times ever. And it's just this super motivating environment where everyone is in this really small town called Geelong. It's about a 45-minute drive from Phuket Airport. And it's just this hub. It's this just energetic centre where you're in this little suburb and everyone's main focus and goal is healthy eating, living, training, exercise. That is the number one thing. It attracts people from all over the world. And there's just one street called the Soy, and there's just all these little gyms sort of dotted over the street and little restaurants, but it is all centered around this sort of well-being focus. Every restaurant you go to, the menu will have the calorie intake on every item. Like it's just designed this way, There are protein smoothie shops all down the Soy. Everything is designed to be healthy. There's like one bar, but no one goes. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like the big girls will be like, come here. And they're like, no, I'm good. I just found this love for it, and that really sort of propelled me. And I can't explain it, but when you're there, you're in this environment where all of your focus and attention and energy is on bettering yourself. You'll train 3 to 4 hours a day, and then listen to podcasts, read books, just really relax and just work on yourself. I literally watch like Gordon Ramsay cooking videos for like 3 hours a day for weeks, and just like want to learn how to cook. Cool. Just literally do it. Train, sleep, eat, repeat. That was it, and you really show yourself how truly committed you can be and what can come from it. And that, again, it's just momentum, and that just builds. You know, you do that and you go, wow, if I really put my mind to it, to anything, I can do it.
You did that a few times?
Yeah. So I've probably done it about 5 times.
Is it a martial art that you're training for over there, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, it's a good question. So like you can do pretty much everything. They offer everything, right? Muay Thai, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, everything.
Wow,
grappling, wrestling. Like they have everything on offer, right? You want to pay for it? They'll do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I used to go to 2 different gyms there and just do fitness training and CrossFit, right? So a lot of strength-based training, but a lot of cardio, HIIT, high intensity workouts and
Sweating like crazy too.
Sweating like crazy. It's fucking 35 degrees, 80% humidity, hot as shit.
Yeah.
But your complexion looks great. You just drip fat.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I would go there and I'd drop 10% of my body weight. And like I never check my body fat percentage, but I was lean.
Yeah.
Like, but it's so hard because it's this juxtaposition when you come back and you can't sustain it because it's a job. When you're there, it's a job. You're eating chicken, rice, and vegetables.
Yeah.
3 meals.
Coconut water.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing unhealthy, and you're training like crazy. It's just, you can't replicate it here. But if you want a little fitness kick, definitely do it. Geelong, Phuket, Thailand.
We'll have to check it out.
It's a good plug.
Yeah.
Well, I've been wanting to learn a martial art forever, and I think
best place to start.
Yeah, there you go.
Honestly, like you go there, they've got these trainers have been doing it since they could walk. You'll see these little kids running down the street, right? And they're literally like 4, 5, 6 years old, and they're out for their run before they come back and train. Like, and these trainers you'll be training with like 40 years old. They've done it 6 days a week their entire life, right? They live, breathe this, and it looks very daunting. I really haven't done any martial arts. I never really got involved. I did a couple classes, but it just wasn't really interesting to me in terms of fighting aspect. I just love CrossFit and strength training and that sort of aspect. But it's the best place to start. You're training with the best in the world. Like you'd be there, and there's UFC fighters. There are really, really well known professional athletes training there. You'll literally be in a class and there'll be like 6 Russians and they're going anti-clockwise when you're like, you should be going clockwise, bro. But they don't listen and they don't talk English, and they're just like doing their own thing. Like, I'm supposed to be on the rower. Fuck it, I'll just do the same exercise again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't tell a Russian what to do.
Yeah, but there's a balance, because I remember like the longest trip I did was 8 weeks, and you just go a bit crazy. You go a bit nuts.
It's a long time, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just straight fitness 8 weeks.
Yeah, and like over Christmas on my own, solo, just focused, no Instagram. I used to do it differently. I would completely switch out from all social media, nothing, no work, nothing, just be there, be present, and just focus on yourself.
Sounds like it'd be healthy for you to do right now with the craze of everything.
Yeah. Look, I can't wait to get back. It's very hard to take that much time out of the game, and the competitor in me kind of goes, well, when I'm not working, someone else is working.
What are you competing for?
I mean, in what I do, there is no silver or bronze. It's gold. Like, that's it, right? You either win the listing or you don't. You either sell or you don't, and that's like how you live and sort of breathe, right? And I want to be the best. It's as simple as that. And there's some really great operators in my marketplace. There is some strong competition. Your competition's pretty average, but they've built market share, like AS Colour.
You AS Colour.
Can I name these things?
Keep going. Name more competitors now.
But like I'm in one of the best marketplaces in Victoria, and therefore Australia. And I want to be the best, and when you're not working and you're not available, naturally your competition will have the edge up. The more signboards I have up builds my market share and my market presence, and time out of the game is not fortunate for me, unfortunately. And at this stage in my career, right? Because I'm still very young, hungry, and with something to prove.
You go, Jeff.
I said, how would you describe your work-life balance at the moment?
Better. It's not perfect, and it needs to be better. But I've definitely said, like, I won't take calls after a certain time. I just I do my best to be home 6:30, 7 p.m. each night. And I work 6 days a week, but it used to be much worse than that. Like, it used to be, I'd be in the office 7:50 to 8 p.m. And that just wasn't good. You come home, eat, sleep, repeat every day, and there's no longevity in that. You burn out very quick. I teeter on the edge of burnout for so long, right? Just pitter patter on this kind of, like, you're sitting there in the office and there's this level of you're unproductive after a certain point.
Definitely.
Right? Where you're sitting there and your brain's just not computing. You kind of feel this kind of fizzle where you're like, I'm cooked.
Yeah, it's kind of that point where more starts to become less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So I don't have it perfect, but I'm doing so many other things in my life that give me energy and fill my cup rather than take from it. And I'm saying no more. And that's probably a really big one that I would ask everyone to exercise. Don't be a yes man to everything and everyone. Say no to more, and you'll be so much better for it.
So speaking of like filling your cup,
Yeah.
so let's fast forward 2, 3, 5 years down the track.
Yeah.
You're the number one real estate. Let's just go in Australia. Like,
Yeah.
you've built this presence.
Yeah.
Which I'd argue is kind of now, but anyway, let's just say we'll give you some modest years.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that fill your cup? Like, you being to where you want to be, how does that change from you right now?
It's interesting because it's, I think even when that does happen, not if, when, I'll have a completely different perspective, and it probably won't be what I thought it would be, and I think that's with every benchmark. You buy a new car and you're like, wow, this is sick. I love this. 2 weeks, you're like, cool, another car. Awesome. What's next? You're always thinking what's next. So you kind of need this balance where you love and enjoy it. But still, you want more. You want more from life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel at that time, but that's my goal. That's my focus, and that's where all my energy's going.
It sounds like you've already started transitioning. Maybe your mindset a little bit in terms of going away from that hustle money mentality and more to living for experiences, and obviously Survivor. I think it's a great example of that. You just took a month out of your life. Probably sacrificed a lot on your career and money and went to do something completely different. I'd love for you to touch on maybe your mindset around that and just how that experience was.
Look, I completely agree. Like, a lot of my life, because I know that the more that I do for myself selfishly will give me more time in the game that I can actually enjoy this career for, because I see a lot of people above me or further in their careers who lose the love for it, and they get to a point where depression is very present in my industry. They lose the love for it. They lose their sense of purpose. When you're at 2,000 transactions and you've done X hundred auctions, you go, just another one. What's changed? Your life's still the same, right? And you might be turning over more money, but it's not turnover, it's leftover, and you're spending more, right? Because now especially if you're in Sydney, you're like, all right, cool, you're making X amount a year and that's awesome. And you're in the top X percent of earners in the population, right? But comes with that private school fees, you got to live in this house, you need this work done to your face.
Keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly, but for Survivor, it wasn't even the money, right? Like, if you win 500,000, which is fucking awesome. But I honestly believe that anyone going into that does not actually think they'll win, right? And you have to say that for the camera. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. But really, you're like, fuck. If I win, really? And I did that purely for experience. That's what it was. It was, I just want to do it. This would be an amazing opportunity, and it would be once in a lifetime, twice if you're lucky. And so I was like, cool, let's do it. And there's a big sacrifice there in terms of I was only out for about a month, potentially 3 if you win, right? But in terms of how that affected my year and that sort of last quarter of last year when we were actually away and filming, dramatic, you know, and that sort of sacrifice of how that financial element impacts my other goals in life.
But I suppose being the long-term thinker that you are, you would say that personal growth and experience pays dividends.
Oh, it wasn't even a question. Like when the opportunity came up, thought about it for 10 seconds. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
You know, like 100%. When the survivor gods say we want you, you know, you just go, yeah.
Those gods. And they burn that stick. I don't actually want to show, but I can imagine those gods are out there.
Thanks, Jesse.
Shit. Fuck myself up here. But Fraser, like, your ambition is extremely motivating and it always has been. Like, from growing up with you, you've always been that person in that corner of my life that I know is really pushing and wants the most for themselves, their family. And like, that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah. But it's also like, and that's, I think that's, you know, like I think we've both grown a lot independently and we don't sort of see each other much and kind of at different points in our life and stages in our life, and it's good to really reconnect and be in very similar positions, you know, and it's awesome to see young people winning, you know, and that's what's so, I think, motivating and special about what you guys are doing, and that's what, you know, you see the community really getting around you and supporting you, because I want to see young people win.
Yeah, well said. And that's what this podcast is all about. Like young people winning, like yourself, coming on ambitious, not following conventional paths, or learning from, you know, like both of us going to uni and then thinking, why the fuck did I just spend 30, in my case, $60,000 on a HEX debt? And learning from that and coming out the other side.
Yeah. But I wouldn't change a thing. You know, everything in my path that has led me here has been important, from the really good things and also the really hard times to
100%.
deal with.
You got to have both. You got to have both.
Yeah.
And it's been a real pleasure having you on today.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
you.
Awesome.